Then we'll start with the user ID. Okay, so for basics, let me initially show you, like, it's got 10.0.1.11. Okay, it's on the inside, and if I try to ping internet, it's going fine. but actually right now this PC is not part of the Active Directory. Okay, so this is our Windows server. Here, let me create a user, and then I'll make this Windows 7 machine a part of this domain. Okay, so here if I go to users, let me create a new user. Okay, I'll uncheck this user must change. Password will never expire. User cannot change that. Better. And let me keep a complex password. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, Udal.
Okay. So we created this user. Let's make this Windows machine now a part of this domain. Okay. For that, what we'll need to do is let's first go here and change the DNS server for this issue. Okay. Because it should be able to resolve that 10.0.1.12. That's the IP address of the Windows server. Okay. Like if I try to ping 10.0.1.12, I can ping. Okay. And I have kept even the Windows server on the same inside. I have not kept it in TMC. And let's right click and bring it onto the domain. Or is it change settings? I'll say change this. Make a member of I'm editor.local. Okay. As soon as I do that, it's
Spelling mistake. DITA.
yeah. Okay. So let's give it username and the password of Hanshu. Okay. So this PC will need a restart so that it can come into the domain. After that, what happens is whenever you try to log in, log out, this PC informs Windows Server about its IP address and details. So that is the information which firewall pulls from the Windows Server to get to know which IP address belongs to which user for the IP user mapping. Okay. Escape. And Okay, so now let's come back to the slides. I'll just show you what I was telling you that day. I was telling you that we need to define a user here. Okay, in follow the you go to device, user identification, user mapping. You need to define a user here, and before that we need to create it here. Okay, and we need to make it part of these three user groups: distributed COM user, event log reader, server operator. Okay, you don't require domain admin privileges, but these are the three that should be there. Okay, configuration steps for user ID is this. Okay, like on like currently whatever we did, that was like, obviously already there in the cockpit network. Okay, so on domain controller, create a service account with required permissions to run agents. So we are doing that. Okay, that's configuration step one. Then we need to do this step two. Okay, fine. Now let's go here and let's create a. We could also use this administrator account, but let me create a new separate user. Okay. Let's give it a name of user ID. Okay. Okay. So once we have that, we need to make it part of those user groups. So I'll right click, make it a member of, I'll add, and for this we need distributed COM users, server operator, and there's one more. Okay. For certification exam, you will have to remember this. Okay, event log reader. Okay, I cram it up and remember it, and that time I would highly recommend that, because they sometimes ask questions here. Although that's, I personally feel that's unfair, because it's easier to remember things about what you really do. Like this part will be done by a Windows server guy, so why should I remember it? Like for certification, like I can check the documentation and do it. Okay, so we made it part of these three, and so next we need to do Windows management instrumentation, wmimgmt.msc. Okay, on the run, and we'll open this. We'll right click properties. Here in the security, or in the, let me check. Yeah, in the security tab. You need to go to CIMv2. Okay, and select security. And here is where you should have that user edit. Okay, I'll add the user ID. Okay, okay, and here we need to give enable account, remote enable, two things. Okay, fine. So step one done here. On step two, on the firewall, we'll define address of the servers to be monitored. That we have to go to device, go to user identification, add a server here. Okay, and then 0.1.12. Okay, Microsoft Active Directory. Also, we'll need to add the things here. And 0.1.12. The type of server is Active Directory. Give me a second. Okay. So here we need to do dc equals I'm editor, comma dc equals local. Okay. And here we need to do. Okay, wait a second. Before we do this, we need to do one more thing here. Okay. We'll need to define the service route. Okay. Because Palo Alto Firewall will try to communicate with the server using the management interface. So we need to do it for LDAP and UID agent. For these two, we want to use the Ethernet 1/1. That's this address. Okay, fine. Because or else it will try to communicate with via management interface, for which it will not work. Okay. Also, let's configure this before we go into that LDAP configuration. So username here would be slash user ID, which we created there. Okay, and password. Okay. These are option steps like session monitoring, client probing. If you want to enable, you can. If you don't, still user ID works. But uh, like I told you, client probing, and that day I told you that it's like asking directly the Windows host machines what their uh, user ID is. So sometimes if there's somebody malicious, if somebody doing malicious activity, he will probably mislead. So it's not required or it's not recommended for a environment where there is a high security requirement. Okay, it's best to ask and probe user ID information from sources where uh, who you trust, like servers, okay, who are under control of some administrator rather than end device. So you can enable it, you can leave it, it's up to you. Okay, I'm not enabling it. Session monitoring is required if you have some FTP or print servers where user ID is used to log in and stuff. So again, not applicable in our scenario right now, but you can keep it checked. Okay, fine. So fine. Okay, now let's go for this LDAP. And give, you can name, you can give anything. Type active directory base PC. Yeah, this is your the domain name. Okay, and if you feel any problem in this, you can ask even your AD guy. Okay. Okay. And yeah, yeah. Okay. Keep this checkbox unchecked. Okay, because if you keep this checkbox checked, then it will do a uh, encrypted communication with server, but that has to be done on Windows Server as well. There has to be server certificates and some configuration generated, which is beyond the scope of Palo Alto. It's some Windows AD server part. So I'll keep the communication clear text, not a problem. If you can ask your AD guy if he has configured uh, properly. with the TLS, you can use TLS. Okay. In our case, we won't. Okay. So I'll click OK. And once I have that, I need to define the authentication profile. Uh, just like yesterday we defined an authentication profile for these uh, local users, right? Today we'll define a authentication profile for LDAP, like I was telling you even yesterday, okay, in which we'll call the server profile that we just created before this. Okay. Okay. And here I'll say again, hello everyone. Okay. And let's commit before we do a basic check. Okay. So the basic check, this shows connected. This means we are able to communicate perfectly well with the server. Okay. And another thing you can check is you can go to group mapping settings here, okay, and add here, okay, call the server profile that we created of AD, and in the include list, okay, if you are able to navigate this AD structure, okay, if you're able to navigate this AD structure, this means your configuration is perfectly well and it's able to read the user groups and everything. So we'll use a user ID to log in, or we have actually used a user ID to log into this Windows 7 machine, but for that, I just want to verify which particular, okay, user group is it a member of. Okay. So if you see it is in the properties, if you go to member of, you'll see that it is a part of domain users. Okay. So that means like if I want Palo Alto to be able to figure out for this particular user, the user ID, IP mapping thing, then I need to add it here. Okay. Now, also like if you look at some other users, like suppose suppose let's say we are using this administrator. Then we need to add domain admins as well. Okay. So you can add accordingly. You might have some more user groups like maybe um, HR user, sales, or maybe IT, and all the different organization units and user groups. Okay. Fine. So I've added them to the include users. And the benefit of adding them here is now I can, whenever I make policies, okay, I'll show you, like suppose I go to this existing policy of in and out. If I go to source user, I can, okay, wait, I'll need to commit that before it shows up here. So this group mapping settings has not been committed yet. Let's commit that. Okay, so now let's go to policies here. And if I go in out, here in the user, if you see, you can have the domain users, domain admin, those people. Okay. One common things that people forget is once you have user ID enabled, you need to go to that particular zone where you want user IP mapping to be done, and you need to check this checkbox of enable user identification. Also here you can give an include list, like if you want to specifically include only certain subnets. If you don't give any, then all of them are included. Okay. Also you could use exclude list. So okay. Let's generate some traffic. Commit completed. Okay. So let's go to some website from here. Okay, wait. I will need to do some modification, a little bit of modification. Actually, my server is not properly ready for everything. So yeah, I'll need to tell it about DNS server so that it can resolve these public domains from there. Okay. Let's check.
GP update space/source. road slash.
Like I told you, I'm not an expert in this thing. Mhm. Yeah, there'll be a separate guy who will take care of Windows, so and all this. See, the thing is, you find it complicated because, or even I find it complicated because the thing is, we are not familiar with, Active Directory level stuff. Okay, like, um, this part, like, why this, why that. Okay, like, I have gone through like some basics, but I even frankly I have not got too much into like what is really the CIMV2. Okay, so most of it you just do because you have to do it. Okay, like distributed com user, event logger, server operator are fine, but like you don't individually really understand them. So that's why it seems so. Let me do some basic check before we go further. Okay. We are not able to resolve the DNS. Why?
I think traffic is not going outside from this device. It's showing limited connection. Not here on client side.
No, but even this guy is not able to resolve. Let's log off and log in here as well. Because see, for this guy, the DNS server uh, resolving needs to done by this person. DNS request timed out. Let me check one thing. Last time I remember I did it like this. CN equals CN equals user ID, comma CN equal users, DC equals I'm editor. They have changed some options here, so there could be an issue also. Because in 8 they didn't have this domains DNS option here. Let's do a basic check. Okay, I'll exclude 10.0.1.12 from user identification. Our security policy is blocking something. Okay, sorry. Here I'll need to add domain admins as well because Windows Server that's the issue. But with exclude, it should have allowed it to go out now.
Sudhanshu, 1.1.1.1 is the DNS server, huh?
It's public DNS server, it's Cloudflare, just like 4.2.2.2 or 8.8.8.
We can okay, so we can give the self DNS server. We have already AD 10.1.10.0.
Yeah, but until or unless ultimately everybody has to go out, right?
But as of now, it is not working. So we can at least we can test.
I'm checking some documentation. Right. Personally, I think this is something got to do with iOS 9. Some modification in some option because some of these things were not Yes, dear. Okay, wait. Access denied. Why so? So that means because here it's showing access denied, that means I modified this wrong. Why is this showing as access denied? This adjusted account has full privileges. Let's try doing that. It was perfectly fine yesterday.
Hello? Hello?
Yes. I'm just rechecking all the steps that we did. Okay, give me time. I'll double check what is the issue and get back to you guys. I don't know, like I did all these similar steps. Why this is showing as access denied?
मुझे खोलने दे अभी फ्री रहती चलेगी
I'll just read the documentation for PCNSE 9 for user ID. There are some small things which are new, but I don't think this should have affected, but I'll just double check these things. Okay, I'll get back to you guys, and we'll have it like for half an hour or 1 hour class to just show you the spectacle again.
So Sudhanshu, we'll connect next session or today only?
Yeah, I'll disconnect it right now. Let me double check with the Baldev handles Active Directory related stuff. I'll like I don't know much about troubleshooting of Active Directory, so maybe there is something that has been modified. Maybe for PCNSE 9 they have more refined something, because it like there are some new fields here. Okay, but I want to double check like whether these things are going like you can check some logs on the server as well, like whether that request is coming to pull data or not for user ID. So once I verify all that, I'll get in touch with all of you guys, and we'll have another 1 hour session. Okay. So it's not necessarily tomorrow or Monday. I'll let you know. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Fine.